Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Winnells, and with me tonight, returning once again, you might know her as Lilith Beast, but I call her Lowell Beastie.
How you doing, Eric?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you back. It's nice to see you. We're actually recording 2 episodes today. Let's not lie to everybody. And I'm not sure which one I'm going to put out first. It's either going to be this one or one about Halloween 2018.
Okay.
And I am slightly under the weather. You might be able to tell by the sound of my voice. So I just wanted to mention that since we did record these episodes together, it's all the same day. I'm not sick again. I'm still sick. Or as sick as you know what I mean. Same day. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. We are going to be talking about a possible alien encounter.
Ooh.
I don't know if I can't imagine that we would have so far discussed between myself and yourself the belief in aliens. Do you have any belief in aliens?
I mean, I 100% believe that there is alien life in the universe, and we probably don't even know that it exists because it doesn't look like anything we know what to look for. As far as like little green men, I mean, maybe, but like probably any idea that we have is probably not correct.
Well, I'm glad you said little green men, because that is exactly what we're talking about tonight. We are talking about the case. It's not the first case to describe aliens as little green men, but it's the first case to kind of popularize it. And that's kind of a misconception, actually, about the case, but we'll get into that as we go along. We're going to be talking about the Kelly little green men, is how this thing is popularly known. There's a couple different names. They're also sometimes known as goblins, which refers to an episode that I did just recently as well, but most people think that these are possibly aliens. We'll get to that in a minute. But before we do, I want to remind everyone about the website, spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. They both take you to the same place, and that is the show's blog page. From there, you can listen to each and every episode, even the ones no longer available on Apple Podcasts or other podcasting carriers. You can also sometimes find outtakes and pictures and stuff like that from certain episodes. You can also find links to all of our social media. We are at Spooky Ass Shit on both Instagram and on Twitter. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookyas. And you can join our secret closed group there as well, the Spookaroos. Mm-hmm. Just search Spookaroos in Facebook and you'll find us. Speaking of Spookaroos,
yeah,
I did mention this on the other episode we recorded, but I'll mention it here too in case this is the first one. I am wearing the first official merchandise released from the show. My official True Blue Spookaroo t-shirt.
Oh, it looks great. I'm actually just now noticing the book title that skeleton is reading. It's Memento Mori, and I absolutely love it.
Yes. Well, let me give you a tour of this design because I did draw this myself.
Did you?
Well, let me rephrase that. I drew a sketch.
Gotcha.
A very rough sketch that I handed to an artist, and they transformed it into something that people might actually be interested in owning. But I did come up with the concept. So yes, it's a skeleton. He's standing in front of kind of a brick wall, kind of like a dungeon-y kind of wall. Yeah. And he's reading a book, and the title is Memento Mori. Remember, you too must die. And it says, in Roman numerals, the year that the podcast started, which was 2006. And then it says True Blue Spookaroo in a circle. And then there are some palm fronds on the outside, because palm fronds are a symbol used on gravestones meant to symbolize victory. Oh. So just thought onwards and upwards with the podcast and with the Spookaroos. So victory.
Love it.
To the True Blue Spookaroos.
It's a delightful design.
Well, thank you. And it can be yours via our friends at TeePublic. They do charge a little bit for shipping, and I only get a couple dollars per shirt, but I wanted to get them out there for the folks that were interested. I was very flattered to know that people were asking for merchandise, and so yeah, even though it's not like a big huge moneymaker or anything, it's still nice to be able to get those out there to you guys. So, Lowell Beastie.
Yeah.
I this show is a big mix of topics. Sometimes we do like movie reviews. Sometimes we talk about old TV shows. Sometimes we talk about funny stories. Sometimes scary stories. It's a big mix, wide variety of different things.
All things spooky.
Yeah. And that's not for everybody. Some people only want like, they're disappointed because they tune in the show is not really scary.
Yeah.
Even though I never said it was. It's called Spooky Ass Shit, first of all.
Yeah.
That should be clue number one, that this is kind of like more of a comedy podcast.
Yeah.
But a lighthearted look at the paranormal. But sometimes we do true crime shows and stuff like that where it is a little bit more serious and a little bit more scary. But it's hard to find a balance sometimes. And I want to do more ghost stories because I love ghost stories. And, I find the idea of ghosts interesting, even though I don't really believe in them and all that. But my problem is a lot of ghost stories are very similar. And they never really have satisfying conclusions because it's never like, and that's when the world realized there really were ghosts.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and that's when my uncle said he thought he really saw something. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, okay, well, maybe.
Someone saw something, someone heard something.
Yeah.
No evidence.
So for this week, I actually really wanted to do a ghost story, but I couldn't find like a good, compelling ghost story that I either hadn't done yet or that hasn't been covered a million times by somebody else. I'm sure if we went worldwide, we'd be able to find something. So I'm putting the call out there to all you listeners around the world. If you have some crazy, cool ghost story from your homeland, your hometown haunt, let me know. I've told you mine before, Johnstone's Inn.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, update on.
Ooh.
I was just there last night with a certain young woman. And we had been told, first, by my hobgoblin, Jenny Blades Lissess, who's also been a frequent guest, although not recently, on the show. She sent me a picture last week, the week before. I think it was just last week, actually. And she said, hey, I'm at John Stone's, and guess what? The dress is hanging up. Those of you who listened to the John Stone's episode know that the story of the haunting involves a little girl who was hit by a train. She was brought into this inn, and now she's supposed to haunt the inn. And the legend was that her dress was upstairs, and it stayed up there because they had to cut it off her. And then when she went to the hospital or whatever, it just stayed in the attic. 100 years later or whatever, a couple found the dress and took it home, kind of figuring this was like part of that legend. And apparently their house started to have some weird activities, so they brought it back, and it hasn't left the inn since, except that it had, because Jenny Blades and I, every time we went in, because we knew that allegedly it had been on display at some point. But every time we went in, it wasn't on display. So for like at least 4 to 5 years, every time we went in there, we'd be like, where's the dress? Do you guys? And they'd always tell us, oh, it's out for framing.
For 4 years.
Exactly. Like, I've brought stuff to get framed. Takes about a week. So I recently replayed that episode and called them out on, like, I think this is bullshit. I think, like, either don't have the dress or they know that it's fake or, like, whatever, and they're not displaying it, whatever.
Yeah.
So Jenny Blades went, and she said the dress is on display again.
Wow.
And I'm not saying the two things are related. But it was literally just, like, a month or so ago that I reposted that episode and, like, added additional commentary calling them out even more.
Yeah.
Not only is the dress on display on the second floor. When you walk in, you kind of look up this stairway. It's right at the top of the stairway. You can see it as soon as you enter the door. And not only is that on display, but at the table there's a little sign. They're doing a ghost history night.
Ooh.
For $25 a head, including dinner.
Oh, that's a good deal.
So I'm going to try to go to that. I don't know if I'll get in time, but I'm going to try to go to that. But I'm just saying, there was nothing ghosty related before, and now there is. So
You're making things happen.
It could just be a coincidence, or maybe the show reached the right ears and things are happening. So if so, that's good. But let us do a live episode from John Stone's Inn. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be awesome.
But anyway, the dress. So I went. The dress is on display. I did post a picture of it on Instagram, so you can see it there. Spooky ass shit at Instagram. So, well, you know what I meant. And now let's talk about our little friends, the Little Green Men.
Yes.
This story comes to us all the way back from 1955. It was Sunday, August 21st, 1955, in the small western Kentucky town of Kelly. There were 11 people spending the night at the Sutton family farmhouse. The group consisted of the matriarch of the family, Glennie Langford, who was 50 years old, and her children, Lonnie, 12, Carlton, 10, and Mary, 7. Also, there were 2 sons from her previous marriage, grown sons, one named Elmer Lucky Sutton, who was 25, and John Charlie J.C. Sutton, 21, and their respective wives, Vera, 29, and Aileen, 27. Aileen's brother, O.P. Baker, 30 or 35. That's how it listed. I don't know. But and a Pennsylvania couple named Billy Ray Taylor, 21, and June Taylor, 18. The Taylors, along with Lucky and Vera Sutton, did not live at the farm, but they'd been staying there for a little while between jobs as carnival workers. So
I like this setup.
Yeah, well, this case kind of has an unfair reputation of being, it eventually comes down to rednecks versus aliens. That's how a lot of people describe it.
Okay.
But I don't think that's quite fair, but we'll get into that in a little bit. At about 7 o'clock, Billy Ray Taylor was drawing water from a well when he saw a bright light streak across the sky and disappear beyond the tree line just a little bit behind the house. Billy Ray ran back inside the house to report that he'd just seen what he called a, quote, spaceship streak across the sky. The others in the house knew that Billy Ray was a bit of a blowhard and that he was prone to exaggeration. So they just said, "Sure you did," and went on with their evening. But about an hour later, the dog began barking at something outside. Billy Ray and Lucky Sutton went outside to investigate. When they got outside, they saw a creature. Descriptions would change from report to report, so it's difficult to say exactly what this creature looked like. But it is reported that the creature was somewhere between 2 and 4 feet tall, that it had big eyes, which were very far apart, large pointy ears, and long arms with big claw-like hands. The men ran back inside to grab their guns.
That sounds very appropriate.
As they came back out, Billy Ray's hair was grabbed by another creature, which had been sitting above the door on the roof of the house. The men shot at it, and although the creature let Billy Ray go, the bullets did not seem to have much effect on it. They saw another creature in a nearby tree. When they shot at it, the men report that it floated down to the ground.
That's pretty spooky.
Yeah. In some reports, they also talk about them either shining or glowing a little bit, too. But the reports get a little muddy as time goes on. The men went back inside and locked the doors. Now and then, a, quote, scary face would appear in the window, and the men would shoot at it. Later reports would claim that there were a total of between 12 and 15 creatures roaming the farmhouse, but this seems to be a bit of an exaggeration because there's only one point in which any of the witnesses report seeing more than one creature at a time, and that is what I just talked about, where Billy Ray and Lucky saw one on the roof and one in the tree. That's the only time they saw it more than one at a time. Most of the others present claimed that they were too caught up in the excitement and fear of what was happening to see much of anything at all. The children were told to hide under their beds while the guns were being fired, and the women of the house claimed that they were too afraid to look. The creatures repeatedly popped up in the windows and in the doorways. The men kept firing at them for nearly 4 hours.
Oh my God, that's a really long time.
It is. And the thing is, like, either these creatures are impervious to bullets or these guys are just really bad shots.
Yeah.
But either way, like, that's a long time to try to keep up this firefight. Yeah.
Were they appearing inside the house in
No.
the doorways or just outside?
Just like at the door. They talk about having a screen door, so maybe the door is open, but there's a screen on it.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't know
Gonna wreck
exactly,
up your screen door.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to that too, but well, the other thing is, aside from grabbing his hair after they fired a gun at these creatures, it doesn't seem like so they pop up at the window, like, big deal, and you saw one in the yard, like, why are you trying to shoot these things right away?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I can understand, like, getting your gun at the beginning just to be safe because you're like, I don't know what's about to happen. But, I mean, yeah, I don't understand. Yeah.
Once the shooting stopped, the entire clan drove down to the police station to tell the authorities what had occurred. What had occurred? The police came out to the farmhouse and found no little creatures and no spaceship. They found no footprints or any other traces of the creatures. Considering the panic the family was under and their own reported heavy use of firearms for 4 hours, you might expect to find at least several bullet holes in and around the farmhouse. But the police reports say that they only found one in a screen door. Investigators spoke with the neighbors, who confirmed that they did in fact hear gunshots that night, but they just mistook them for fireworks and dismissed them.
That's a pretty common. I always do that. It's always.
I was gonna say that happens all the time in my neighborhood too. Actually, like
Yeah.
if I hear something, I'm like, it's probably fireworks. Yeah, well, just city living.
Can you remind me where this is? Like what type of place it is? Because I realize I may be biased because I've decided that this is in the middle of nowhere in like
I
the
believe.
woods.
I don't know if it's in the woods, but I believe that this is kind of a rural area.
Okay, so they would have
I don't know
neighbors,
for
but
sure.
would be maybe too far away to be able to
Right.
give any real.
And it's a farmhouse, so farmhouses usually have a good amount of land around them.
Okay.
Even in this area.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine. We'll talk about the town a bit more later on, but it seems a little bit rural, I would say.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners. If you're from Kentucky and you know the town of Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong. They always mention that it's near another town. So, like, usually if a town has to, like, tell you what it's near for you to know that it exists,
Yeah.
that's usually a sign that, like, this is a small town.
Yeah.
And, like, there ain't much going on, usually. Maybe I'm wrong, though. The police and several others in town began to think that the whole affair was a hoax. The biggest problem being that the number one witness himself, Billy Ray, was known to be not the most reputable source. As you said earlier, even the family, when he came in, was like, yeah, okay, all right, Billy, you saw a spaceship. Great. He was known to change his story and add more elaborate and fanciful details every time he told it. He seemed to delight in the fame that his so-called alien encounter brought him, and he would take any opportunity to talk to reporters about it.
This guy sounds like a real fun character to know.
Yeah. Well, he's a carny. And now he's going to tell you about the time he had a 4-hour firefight with aliens. I'd be down for it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, tell me your story.
Yeah.
One of the original investigators, Trooper R.N. Ferguson, suspected alcohol might have had a role in the events of the evenings.
You think?
Reports state that police did find some empty beer cans in the farmhouse, but not enough to cause such wild hallucinations. Still, Ferguson would later quip that he believed the creatures did not come from outer space, but in fact from a six-pack.
That's a good line.
Yeah. Reports on the case took on a life of their own. It became very well known. It's part of the town's identity, even to this day. We'll get to that. Some reports said that the creatures were little green men.
Okay.
And this is not the first recorded case of someone referring to possible aliens as little green men, but this is the case that kind of popularized it. It became famous with the newspaper saying, little green men seen in Kelly. Others said that they were silver, and still others said that they were actually made out of metal. Because in some reports, they say that they fired bullets and they made a metallic clinking sound as they bounced off the aliens. I couldn't find direct reports. I just found reports of reports as I was like researching this.
It sounds a little sketchy.
So yeah. But for the record, one of the surviving children, he didn't see himself because he was told to hide under the bed. But he reports that his uncle, Lucky, one of the main people involved in this, had told him that the creatures were actually silver and shiny. Not glowing, but shiny.
Okay.
This encounter was even investigated as part of Project Blue Book, the infamous study of UFOs conducted by the U.S. Air Force. They list this event as a hoax without any further detail. They just straight up say, this didn't actually happen. This is just some drunk carny making up stories to entertain the 11 people in this farmhouse. But to counter that, by the accounts that I've seen, they say, like, yes, Billy Ray would have made this kind of thing up, but Lucky was like a more serious person, and it wasn't like him to like come up with a big hoax like this.
Gotcha.
So it, depends, and they say that he wasn't like your stereotypical redneck kind of guy, whereas Billy Ray kind of was. I mean, when you have a name like Billy Ray,
you got to steer into that.
It doesn't help. Yeah. I don't mean to sound like too much of a Yankee, but that is, when Northerners are like trying to come up with a stereotypical like Southern kind of name.
Oh yeah.
That would be one.
I'm from Texas, and I don't think I've ever even met anyone named Billy Ray.
Yeah. So before we go on with explanations and everything, of possible explanations of what these creatures were, do you have any thoughts on this so far?
I mean, the only thing I can think is I don't know the wildlife in that area at all, but perhaps a jackrabbit. That's something that I can think of that would have very large eyes and long ears. And I mean, and they do stand on their hind legs sometimes. So if you were already maybe a little intoxicated, maybe it's sunset, and so they're being backlit, they might appear a shiny silver instead of just like a normal white or gray. But that's really...
All right. I should also point out that there were other reports of UFOs in the area on the same night.
Really?
Yeah.
So this isn't okay. There's enough evidence to make it like a debate.
Yeah. But having said that, I guess we should then discuss some of the theories. Well, of course, there's the theory that these are aliens.
Yeah.
However, it seems odd then that this is some form of alien which has apparently been able to travel through space to reach Earth, and what they do is they come and randomly attack a farmhouse and just like pop up in the windows and doorways.
Yeah, just hang out for a few hours.
Like this, they have to come from an advanced society. Now, maybe it's an advanced society that sent like, like we might send a robot or something. Like we wouldn't send like a person first.
Yeah.
So maybe this is like, or, we sent monkeys into space.
Yeah.
So maybe this is like some kind of like space monkey.
Yeah.
That another civilization sent down.
Not their apex creatures.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just trying to give them, that wasn't even one that I read, but that's a pretty good theory I just came up with on the spot. Just trying to give them some kind of dog in the fight here to be able to stand their ground. Other theories were that it's, perhaps some kind of interdimensional creatures.
Oh.
That slipped into our dimension.
Ooh.
And that's why they were so agitated, because they're like, hey, what the fuck? Like, we're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
What is this place? What are these things? What are they shooting at us?
Yeah.
Again, I guess if you want to consider that, that's up to you. And there was a theory that gets reported a lot that they were actually escaped circus monkeys.
I mean, you would think that the carny would know an escaped circus monkey when he saw one.
Yeah, I mean, carnies are different from circus.
I mean, true, yeah.
But still, yeah, you would think if you looked out, because I mean, they said it was like 7-ish, so it might be getting dark, but it's not like midnight.
Yeah.
And so when you saw the first creature, at least, you might have gotten a good look. And if it looked like, a silver circus outfit being worn by a monkey,
there you go.
Might be able to recognize that. But having given those explanations, let's talk about some more rational, perhaps, explanations of what these things might be. Because known skeptic and researcher Joe Nickell looked into the Cali incident. And he's very famous. If you watch any kind of like show about aliens or even ghosts or psychics or something like that, Joe Nickell pops up a lot, and he's very entertaining. But he works for the Center for Skeptical Inquiry and all these other organizations.
That's a great name.
Yeah. And he'll come out and research these kind of things and be like, well, okay, that's the story. Here's what more likely probably happened. So he investigated by going down and talking to actual witnesses who were still alive at the time, and talking to members of the town about the people, and going back and reading the old reports, police reports, and the actual reports at the time. And he was the one who noted that, like, some of the reports said that the creatures were glowing, but actually what the witness said was that it was shiny, not glowing, which is different.
Okay, glowing was the reports of reports.
Yeah. Yes. Nichols believes that the men did actually encounter a creature outside. They weren't making it up whole cloth.
Mm-hmm.
But he says what these people saw was actually a great horned owl.
Oh!
Nichols notes that the great horned owl has a height of about 25 inches, which is just over 2 feet. They are very large, with striking yellow eyes, long ear tufts, a large head set without an apparent neck on its shoulders, a light gray underside, long wings that, seen on edge, could be mistaken for an arm, spindly legs with claws and talons. An owl could be on the roof or in a tree, and it could be perceived to float down to the ground if it were to glide down. And as to their behavior, the great horned owl is extremely aggressive when defending its nest, and their activity typically begins at dusk.
All right.
So it's the right size, roughly the right description. It can float and fly, and it can become aggressive if it thinks you're messing with it. Mm-hmm. And if you see it at dusk, well, that's what time these animals start to come out. So.
And if they saw some sort of streak in the sky, that could certainly be an owl just literally flying by really fast because they have wings and can fly.
Well, so the flying saucer was actually most likely a very bright meteor, because it turns out there were meteor showers in the area that night. And that's probably what the other reported sightings were as well. So many people were saying they saw something strange in the sky. Well, there was a meteor shower.
Gotcha.
Owls get blamed for a lot of misidentified creatures, including like the Mothman, the Flatwood Monster, Dover Demon. A lot of cryptids tend to be misidentified owls, according to skeptics.
Misidentified owls. To be fair, I saw an owl recently in Brookline, actually, and I wasn't very close to it, but I saw it in a tree as it was looking for some mice, and owls are weird looking. Even when they're like just standing still and you like know what it is, they're still weird looking. When they are in flight or whatever, they're even weirder looking. They've got those like really thick legs that look like they're wearing like pajama pants. Owls are freaky things, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they are weird looking. I've actually I don't know, I must have seen one in my life, but I don't specifically remember seeing an owl. But I know, like, when I've gone camping and stuff, I've heard them. So it's weird when you see an owl, first of all.
Yeah.
And then if you're not familiar with them and you see something out of the blue, and especially if you're maybe at a distance and their eyes are shining in the light.
Oh yeah.
And they're putting on like a show for you, a show of aggression, like with their wings spread out and their chest puffed up and everything.
Yeah.
They probably look much bigger than what you think an owl looks like.
Yes.
So yeah, actually one day we had a woman come to work. She was like from an animal place, and she brought an owl with her. I forget what kind it was. It might have been a great horned owl. I don't know. But it was huge, and it opened its wings, and I was like, we're about to die. We're all about to die. This thing's going to come and destroy us.
They also, from what I understand, I feel like I heard recently that they don't have really great eyesight. So I'm sure I'm probably totally wrong here. So
I have no idea.
don't take this completely to heart. But if they don't have great eyesight, then they might be like swooping around, or you might, if they're flying at you, you might only see like a little bit of them at a time and not quite understand what you're seeing.
So I think the owls is more probable than circus monkeys anyway.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's probably what I would go for, or that they were making it up whole cloth. Because, okay, so maybe Lucky is known to be a sensible person and everything, but even sensible people can be pulled into a prank or, a hoax or something if the story's good enough.
Yeah.
And maybe Billy Ray was just like, oh, it'd be really funny if we convince everyone aliens came out here and we shot them up and everything, and,
I keep trying to figure out like what their game plan would be. Like, did they just want to like shut the kids up for the night? And they were like, "Oh, it's aliens! Go upstairs, hide under your bed, be quiet."
Well, but I'm saying is, it could be that none of that even happened.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be they just made up the whole thing. And,
oh, I see.
I don't really think that's true, but it's something to consider.
Yeah, it's possible.
This incident has worked its way into pop culture. As I said, the phrase "little green men" referring to aliens didn't really start with this case, but it certainly popularized it. So much so that the town of Kelly now holds an annual Little Green Men Festival each August.
That's really cute.
So it's like a weekend event every August. If you're looking for guests, Kelly, if you're willing to fly me out to Kentucky, I will totally come and do a live episode at the Little Green Men Festival.
That would be really fun.
I'd love to. And I will show you some pictures later on. But you can find some pictures online of the festival. And it looks like a charming little town. Mm-hmm. I'll put it that way. Little being the key word.
Gotcha.
But I'm from a small town, so I love small towns. The only thing that does concern me, they do talk a lot about like, oh, also there's a tent revival in town the same weekend, because they say like, we don't know if the aliens are coming back, but we know Jesus is coming back. So I could handle it, but I don't know if the town would welcome me with open arms, being an atheist and all. Look, I don't have to come and talk about Jesus. I won't mention Jesus at all.
You're here for the little green men.
Yeah, I'll stay out of that, but you stay out of my business.
There we go.
But so we'll see. But Kelly, if you're listening, actually this August I'm not available. I'm going to Woodstock. That's a separate thing. But most August I am available. So maybe 2020 I can get out there. It also found its way into Pokemon.
Really?
There is a Pokemon called Sableye.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
And he or she or it is based on the description of the Kelly aliens.
Oh my goodness.
So there's also sketches by the witnesses of what these creatures look like.
Oh, I'm desperate to see that.
Oh, I'll show you.
Slap that up on the website.
Actually, yeah, they're going to be on the Instagram and on the Facebook. I'll post them. Let me pull those up for you. Now I'm going to pause this recording and we'll get your reaction to those pictures. All right, so Lil Beastie, we've looked at the sketches.
Yeah.
And I've showed you pictures of the Little Green Men Festival.
Yeah.
From their Facebook. We noticed in one, I said, oh, it looks like these people are doing a prayer circle. And then we clicked on it, and it's right in front of the stage at the festival. And it says, like, oh, yeah, it's a beautiful moment of worship. And the gospel music continued. So I don't know if they would welcome me with open arms.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't come there saying, like, oh, there's no Jesus. And I wouldn't do that. I'm not that kind of guy.
Of course
they
not.
They can do whatever they like. If they want to have a prayer circle, more power to them. It's fine.
That's a great time to go
but
get
it does mean that they
sandwich.
might not welcome me
to
the town. So we'll see. But Kelly, I'm here. But you've seen the sketches now.
Yeah.
What do you think?
The artist rendition that I saw, kind of gross. Not a big fan of those glowing orange eyes. It just kind of looked like someone who is, really, really whacked out. Definitely not something that I would enjoy seeing outside my kitchen window at night. But yeah, it also seems like not real.
Well, this is something that Jenny Blades and I have talked about before, seeing anything outside your window at night
Oh, no.
is like, and even just a normal thing.
Yeah.
It's like, just get away from my window. Like, get out of here. Like,
Why are you looking in?
yeah, why is there a bird right now? Like, get out of here.
Why you gotta be such a peeper, bird?
Yeah, let alone seeing like a person, even if it's at a distance.
Yeah, you're like...
Yeah, so something like vaguely humanoid, you'd be like, oh, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I would go get my theoretical gun.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you remember, but He-Man, I was just thinking, it kind of looks like Merman from He-Man.
I am
like
not
a little version.
super familiar with He-Man. I'm so sorry.
Well, you guys can Google that, or I'll put a picture on the Instagram. But yeah, Merman from He-Man, he looks a lot like that creature.
All right.
All right. Well, I don't think I've got much more to say about this case. I think it was a misidentification. It sounds like that's where you're landing on this one too.
Yeah.
Although Project Blue Book says straight up hoax, but I think it was more. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they did actually see something.
Yeah.
And say that it was a hoax. I mean, not a hoax, a misidentification. So I think that's it. Anything else to add?
No, I would not like to see any owls outside of my window. Please stay away. I live on the second floor of my building, but having seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, where the vampires float and look in, I still sometimes worry that I'm just going to like look outside and there's going to be a face right there. So now I'm all freaked out. I'm going to see vampires, birds, whatever. But yeah.
All right. In that case, then I'm going to wrap it up. You guys, of course, can check out the website, spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. And you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at spookyasshit. And find us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookyas. Don't forget to join the Spookaroos. And of course, I want to thank you for those of you who have taken the time to stop and write out a lovely 5-star review on Apple Podcast or wherever you happen to listen. I really, really do appreciate those, especially on weeks like this when I'm a little bit under the weather. And I really almost wanted to cancel, but I said, no, I got to power through. I got to do this. I got to get these done for my Spookaroos. That's all of you guys out there that listen, and I know that there are about a bazillion podcasts out there that you could be listening to. So the fact that you choose to listen to my podcast is wonderful, and I hope that you will continue to listen, and I hope that you will share the show, and I hope that you will leave pleasant reviews and let me know that you appreciate my work as well. So once again, thank you. Lock your doors, cover your windows at night, and until next time, don't be afraid.